1 in 5 persons are living in a catastrophic nutritional situation. Then the acute malnutrition impacts nearly the entire population in Gaza, more than 90%. And between those being in emergency and catastrophic situation, and catastrophic means risk of famine is here at any time between now and September, we have in total more than 1 million people. On the children, again, the figures are quite staggering there. They're talking about 4,000 children missing, and 17,000 being unaccompanied, so more than 20,000. And you add this to the reported 14,000 children who have been killed since the beginning of the war, and you take also into consideration that basically we have every day 10 children who are losing 1 leg or 2 legs on average. This gives you an idea of the scope of the type of childhood a child can have in Gaza.
So good afternoon. Happy to see you again today for this press conference of Mr. Philippe Lazzarini, who is, of course, the UNRWA Commissioner General. He will give us some introductory remarks to update us on the situation in the OPT, and then we will take questions. Philippe, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and again a pleasure to be with you. We have this kind of regular meeting here in Geneva. It becomes a habit, and unfortunately each time the situation in the region, in Gaza, in the West Bank, but also now in Lebanon is getting worse. But let me start to tell you why I'm here this week. I did not come here to provide briefing for member states or whatever. For the first time, the agency decided to have its advisory commission meeting outside of the region, and we have decided to have it in Gaza. So we have 2 advisory commissions a year with about 40 member states represented in this advisory commission, and it was the first time we were meeting in person since the beginning of the war in Gaza. Basically, during this session, we have obviously discussed about the attack UNRWA is under, what are the motivation behind it, what is the risk. Basically, we know that part of the reason of the targeting of the agency, including through legislative effort and political statement, is related to the refugee status of the Palestinian refugees that many would like to see being stripped. I have also warned the member of the Advisory Commission that it would be a mistake to see this attack only through the lens of a bilateral relation between UNRWA and Israel, that much more is at stake. And if we succeed with UNRWA, there will be also other entities which will then be exposed. And the risk behind it is that we create a new standard for other complex emergencies in the future. And hence my call to the member of the Advisory Commission, but also to the member states in general, to strongly push back on this effort. I have also discussed with a member of the Advisory Commission about the critical role the agency can play and is playing now, remain the backbone of the broader humanitarian response in Gaza. But I also do believe that the day we will start a transition, a day in between, the day leading to the day after, the agency will have absolutely critical contribution to do, especially when it comes to the resumption of education and primary health. And we had a full session dedicated to education to look at how this could been rolled out in Gaza. I was also asking the member state to do whatever is possible to shield politically the agency and to make sure that whenever there is an agreement on any type of roadmap transition, that the role of the agency be also specifically mentioned. Now, when it comes to the field or the latest, I know that you have quite a lot of information today. You heard about the IPC, which was issued in Rome and which will be further discussed in New York at the noon briefing. But to tell you the truth, there is very little positive news to share with you, and also very, very little positive impact on what we heard a week, 10 days ago, as being daily tactical pause to facilitate the humanitarian supply into the Gaza Strip. Last night, again, a school has been hit at the level of the beach camp, which is on the northern part of Gaza, and reportedly we have heard about 12 people killed, 22 would have been injured. But this brings also the total of our premises which have been hit or damaged or targeted since the beginning of the war to 190, which is more than half the premises and the infrastructure that we have in the Gaza Strip. And as you know, these premises and this shelter are also used by the population to seek what remains as a possible protection. But more than 500 people so far have been killed while seeking the UN protection. So that's add, in fact, to my call to the member of the Advisory Commission and other member states. We are not only on the political or legislative or smearing campaign attack, but on the ground, the UN and UNRWA has also been targeted. We have paid a heavy price. More than 200 humanitarian staff have been killed, among them 193 only from my own organization. And this is also the reason why I believe that we need more than the welcome Security Council resolution 2 weeks ago on the protection of humanitarian aid workers. We need to complement this with proper mechanism of investigation and accountability. Now, when it comes to the aid delivery, I have to say it's becoming more and more complicated. It has been extraordinarily excruciating over the last few weeks to bring aid. Far too many trucks have been looted, have not reached properly destination. The number of crossings remains far too limited, and basically we are confronted nowadays to a near total breakdown of law and order, and with truck driver being regularly threatened or assaulted, and less willing to move assistance from the border to our warehouses and to the people. In addition of that, you might have heard about the cigarette smuggling, which is the latest type of smuggling taking place in Gaza, where we have been reported that one cigarette costs between $20 and $30. So you multiply by the number of cigarettes in one pack, and then la cartouche, and that gives you, in fact, the value of this cigarette in Gaza. Yesterday, for example, just to tell you how precarious the situation is, even in terms of resources, we had only 30 liters of remaining gasoline, and all our armored vehicles in the Gaza Strip do function on gasoline. And basically, yesterday we were in a situation where our international staff was not able to move properly. I mean, needless to say that our call is always the same call and has been hammered and repeated so many times. We need sustainable, meaningful, uninterrupted aid in the Gaza Strip if we want to reverse the hunger situation. And you saw the latest APC, 1 in 5 persons are living in a catastrophic nutritional situation. Then the acute malnutrition impacts nearly the entire population in Gaza, more than 90%. And between those being in emergency and catastrophic situation, and catastrophic means risk of famine is here at any time between now and September, we have in total more than 1 million people. So our efforts will have to continue, and clearly the environment today is not conducive for us to fully reverse the trend we have observed until now. Maybe just 1 or 2 comment on the children. You saw that yesterday also an international organization, I think Save the Children, has issued a report on the children. Again, the figures are quite staggering there. They're talking about 4,000 children missing, and 17,000 being unaccompanied, so more than 20,000. And you add this to the reported 14,000 children who have been killed since the beginning of the war, and you take also into consideration that basically we have every day 10 children who are losing 1 leg or 2 legs on average. This gives you an idea of the scope of the type of childhood a child can have in Gaza. Just to flag also, we talk a lot about Gaza. Of course, we are all very concerned about the situation also in the West Bank, where we keep saying that a kind of a silent war is taking place. If there wouldn't be Gaza today, the West Bank would hit the headline. More than 500 people have been killed since October 7. But what also striking when we go to the West Bank is the intensity of the operation taking place in the refugee camp or in the villages. 2 weeks ago, I visited one of them in Tulkarem, and sometimes it looks like a war zone because a security operation taking place end up most of the time now with the destruction of neighborhood, the destruction of public infrastructure, and so on. We talked also a lot today about, and I will stop here maybe after, about the funding situation of the agency. You know that before October 7, we were always talking, in fact, about the funding situation of the agency, the only agency functioning on a negative cash flow for more than 4 or 5 years. We have suffered by the absence of attention on the Palestinian-Israeli conflict over the last 10 years. Our resources have eroded, and we had more and more a mismatch between what we are expected to deliver, and we should never forget that UNRWA is unique because we are asked to provide government-like services, but we completely depend on voluntary contribution of the member states. And hence, when the member states are not prioritizing this part of the world or are not prioritizing UNRWA, we start to suffer. We had to muddle through a lot. It had an impact on the quality of our services over the last 10 years. And then we had October 7. October 7 with extraordinary, staggering needs in the Gaza Strip, for which I have to say we had a good support, but after that we had January 26, the allegation with our 12 staff, a temporary pause by a number of countries, and you know the story. 2 months later, the Catherine Colonna report has been fully published. Since all the donors have come back, we have some new donors, we have the strong generosity from the public, but all this does not compensate the suspension of our main donor, the United States, and even if we would have the United States, we would definitely not be in a sustainable path when it comes to predictable funding for the agency. So it remains a struggle. It's still part of the identify existential threat of the agency, and a big chunk of the discussion we had with a member of the Advisory Commission was very much related to funding. So I think I will stop here, and thank you.